Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm John DeSando.
I'm Johnny DiLoretto. This is Cinema Classics.
Yeah, boy, it is. And you could please tell me your obsession with sharks?
Could I tell you? Could I?
Yeah, explain. Could you explain your obsession?
I think it's a couple of things. Well, one, it goes back to, when I was a kid and seeing Jaws for the first time, and that just capturing my imagination and cementing my fear forever. By the way, my little one, Franco, the other day, we were reading a book about sharks, and he was like, I'm never going in the ocean.
Good.
And I hate to have ruined that for him, but also, I'm not too terribly worried about it. At least he'll never get eaten by a shark. I think they're fascinating creatures. They're prehistoric. They've been around since before the dinosaurs. They have changed very little. They are, to quote the cliche, eating machines. They're perfectly evolved to do nothing but hunt and eat. And they're apex predators. They're incredibly powerful and sleek and cool looking. And, I'm fascinated by how people continue to just frolic around in the water, knowing, sometimes even after they've been attacked, that the allure of the ocean is such that it can lure people back, despite them having terrifying experiences with sharks.
Well, I appreciate your primitive analysis, and I think you're absolutely right. And a more modern psychological analysis, if I look at Steven Spielberg's Jaws, and the illustration that I have here, it looks to me, you have the comely female at the top, and you have the shark coming up with his teeth like this.
Yeah.
I think it's very male-centered, that the shark is probably the preeminent male stalking, at least in the part of our filmmaking.
Okay.
And then we look at the shallows.
Yeah, so the theme of this show is not Jaws.
That's correct, thank you.
The theme of this show is to consider all the films, the non-Jaws shark films, right? Okay, so let's start with the Shallows.
Can we go to 47 Meters Below, which is recent?
Right, the most recent movie, which is Mandy Moore and a friend, or her sister rather, go into a shark cage, right?
Yes.
But because it's rinky-dink operation, the cable breaks and the shark cage sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
It's great stuff. And
it's really not all about the sharks. It's just about the time running out on their air in their tanks. It's claustrophobic, but also you realize that if they get out and swim, that there are these sharks.
Right.
Now, just like in Jaws, it's the threat of the sharks that is the most terrifying in that film.
I think Spielberg caught the suspense element of that and played it to the hilt, and everybody, I believe, is trying. This one's certainly trying to capture on that, because you were so right. The CGI sharks pass by the screen now and then. Mostly, what's terrifying is how clueless these girls are.
Yeah, and what's terrifying is their dialogue, which I think keeps the sharks at bay for the better part of the film. Okay, what about The Shallows?
Yeah, you know something? Confession.
Blake Lively.
Even with that bikini, I didn't see it.
No, she is a surfer.
Yeah.
She's on a remote beach. There's a gigundo shark out there that strands her on a rock.
Yes!
And she's waiting for the tide to come in. She has to it's a battle of wits between her and this ferocious man-eater. I had high hopes for that movie because it's such a delightful premise, but it really is, not great.
What I heard,
it's on the same. It's on a par with 47 Meters Down.
Okay, I thought you used the word wit, and yet at the same time you talked about the inane dialogue of these movies.
Yeah.
Are they all like that? The non-Jaws?
Yeah, I mean, really, this conversation is stupid because there are no good non-Jaws movies, including some of the Jaws sequels.
Well, wait a minute.
No, there is one. There is
Deep
one.
Blue Sea.
No, that movie's awful. Except for, well, that movie's so ridiculous because there are these genetically engineered sharks in this facility and they break loose. Do you remember the scene where Samuel L. Jackson is like admonishing all the rest of the scientists, and then a shark leaps out of the background, lands on him bodily, swallows him whole, and then jumps back into the water. Do you remember that?
Of course, and I think that it plays upon the absurdity of it, which
Yeah.
is great.
It is
fun.
really over
and
the
Jackson with what is it? Now it would be sharks in the sea rather than snakes on the plane.
Yeah, right. So that's, I guess, worth seeing just for its silliness.
I got one.
There is one good one.
Here's my
Yeah.
vote. Now I know you know these so well, but let me see if I can't win some points with you.
Yeah.
Open Water.
Yeah, it's the best non-Jaws shark movie,
Excellent.
without question. A little independent movie from the early 2000s. What year you got on there?
I don't have a year.
Yeah, it's it's one of those Blair Witch type of movies, kind of like. Not, I don't want to.
Is it a found footage?
No, it is not a found footage.
Okay.
But let me be clear. It's kind of just a ramshackle sort of production.
Home
it
movie
seems like
kind of.
Home, yeah, it looks like it's not a home movie. It's just that
has that feel.
That feel.
Yeah.
Sort of cheap budget, low budget. But anyway, it's about a couple little scuba diving trip, and they go down, and while they're down, the boat leaves with all the other scuba divers. And then they come up, they're stranded.
That's great.
And essentially the movie, once you get through the first 20 minutes of that setup, is the husband and wife floating there, waiting it out.
Yes.
And it's excruciating. And early on you see the fins, and these aren't great whites. This is a realistic take. These are reef sharks, which come at you in numbers. And so this is a different kind of terror. But they wait, and they wait it out, and the couple eventually just gets eaten. But it's an excruciating experience.
You know what I so much appreciated about that film? Is that any time I have done anything like scuba diving and gone out on a boat at a tour, I'm always afraid that they're going to leave without me.
Well, I would never be in that situation because I have no intention of ever doing that.
All right, our audience wants to know.
You know the best thing about skydiving? No sharks. I wouldn't do that either.
Our audience wants to know about Sharknado.
Oh, Sharknado. Sharknado.
Oh, no, Sharknado, right, that's right.
Yeah, Sharknado.
Now, is this in that absurd line?
Yeah, it's so silly. It's a comedy where sharks get taken up inside of a tornado and then, they're just falling out of the sky eating people. It's absurd. Franco loves them.
Now,
there are 4 or 5 of them, by the way.
Oh, well, one that's coming in the back of my mind that I don't believe I ever saw, but now with the names associated with it, I'm kind of intrigued if you ever saw this one. Shark with an exclamation point, Burt Reynolds and Sam Fuller, who dropped out as director.
He dropped out as director?
So.
Wow.
Yes, he well should have.
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, okay, all right. Shark with an exclamation point.
I know of it. I think it's a really early Burt Reynolds movie.
You're right.
Early 70s.
There was a documentary called Blue Water that Steven Spielberg had used some of the footage from.
Oh, yeah?
For his film, right. So that got to be substantial, but we're talking documentary.
So real quick, and we can wrap up, but we did, as is our tradition, me and the boys went to see Jaws over the 4th of July weekend at the Gateway Film Center. It was restored in glorious 4K. It looked beautiful.
All right.
Every year Vincent takes a friend, and every year it's usually a different friend. And every year he anticipates when Ben Gardner's head falls out of the boat. And he wants to see how the friend reacts. And they always react,
gross.
Oh, yeah. Well, they jump or, they elicit a yelp. And Vincent takes great delight in this. And this year, we took his friend Joe, and I was sitting there. And as the scene builds, I actually just said, you know what, I just want to watch this kid's reaction. And I didn't watch the movie. I just watched him for about a minute straight. The head falls out of the boat, and this kid actually jumped so hard that he struck himself in the face with his hands.
Oh my God.
And he did get hurt,
Right.
but it was so amazing. And what I loved about it, you know, because these are movie savvy kids. What I loved about it is his reaction to the shark itself, the mechanical shark. You know, these are kids raised on CGI. They've never known a time pre-CGI. They took such delight in this movie, and it worked. It still works. It's still a fun adventure horror film that you know, does everything it sets out to do and more.
My final question to you.
Yeah.
Why then did you drop this sequence from your Not So Late show? Your monthly Not So Late show. I believe we're having a recurring shark motif in your show, and you don't have it anymore, as I recollect.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to have it. You know, it was actually, I know some people, you didn't like it. I don't care that you don't like it.
Oh, man.
I still think it's an interesting segment. I think that, you know, if someone from Columbus goes to see a shark movie, they don't have any vested interest in that, you know, other than they're just across the board fascinating. I managed to score a couple of really good interviews about sharks. One with from a shark attack victim,
Right.
One who's a local guy who rescued a couple people
Right.
from a shark attack. You know, it just, truth be told, the logistics of it are tough to like do those interviews to make it
Good.
work.
So
it's not that I'm not interested.
Good.
In it.
Okay, so you haven't lost your interest.
No, and it may still return. In fact, you do realize that at the end of July is Shark Week.
Oh, wonderful. Our timing is perfect.
Yeah.